All right, we're streaming live right now. We're on we're on our one LinkedIn channel, Materials Exchange, and we also have two of our YouTube channels streaming right now. So we're up in our game here at Materials Exchange. We'll wait for a few people to come in into the live stream. Matt, you're finishing up your move right now, eh?
Yeah, don't get me started. Talk about it.
Yeah, we were talking about before you all came on. Yep.
Yeah, it's just, it was 100 degrees on Monday, and the movers, it took them 6 hours to get my stuff packed out of my house.
Yeah.
And it was like they started at 9. It was like 3:15, and it was so hot. I said, why don't you guys just come back tomorrow and we'll finish tomorrow. So they did. They came back. It was nice and cool. It was like 65 degrees, 8 o'clock in the morning. And they unpacked all my stuff in an hour and a half at the new house. So the difference between an old house and a new house, old houses built in 1939 have a lot of corners and a lot of doors and really narrow. Everything's narrow. New houses, everything's open. You just walk right in and got double wide door frames and easy to move stuff around.
You moved into a double wide, Matt?
I did, yes.
You moved into a double wide?
Oh, gosh.
That's the American dream, Greg. A house on wheels and a car on blocks.
Oh, dude, you're bringing back my childhood memories.
So, real quick, we got people streaming in. I'll introduce it. This is Materials. Hey, cheers. Everybody bring up your Materials Exchange mug.
The boss was commenting that she's like, wow, these are the best mugs that she's ever had. She likes the little lock on it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll get her. I'll get Julie one also.
Yeah,
I'll get Julie one also. So just wanted to kind of introduce this as Materials Exchange. We are the only digital B2B e-commerce exchange in the lumber and plywood and OSB industry, matching buyers and sellers of lumber, plywood, and OSB, moving the money and moving the goods. If you want to engage in more transparent pricing, join us at mxlumber.com or materialsexchange.com. So this is episode 11, guys, and I'm going to call this one Return ? To pre-COVID levels. So walking in this morning, I thought about the title. When I was online looking at things like ammunition falling in price, Costco all of a sudden has a bunch of appliances at decent prices that are showing up. Lumber, copper, all types of things are seem to be pulling back. So I don't know, but it seems at least in the short term, kind of that's happening. So I wanted to talk about that. So if you're new to the show, welcome. Please let us know where you're from in the comments over on the right. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask us. Again, this is titled This Week in Lumber, episode number 11, where people come to where we come also to improve our talent stacks and learn more about the lumber industry. So the two things we wanted to first start out with is, Greg, let's talk about, and Matt, new and existing home sales. So which one do you want to touch on first, Greg?
Well, we'll talk existing home sales. That came out yesterday. And the headline on both of the reports were that they were down more than expected. Doing a little bit of a deep dive on the existing homes. I mean, number one, prices are at an all-time record high, $350,000. The other thing is, when I look, the price is up 23.6% from last year, but there's only a 2.5 month supply of existing homes. The new home sales came out today, and they were also down. But I looked, in year-to-date, new home sales are up 25.7% from last year. And again, I mean, the inventory is only 5.1 months, which is considered on the low side.
Yeah. So look, I got a question then. So both of these existing and new are skewed a little bit by the lack of data in the first quarter, right, or the same time last year. So even though these numbers are up real high, we have to realize we are right in the throes of COVID, where we're comparing those levels to levels now. So the percentages, in my opinion, could be off a little bit, right? Compared to, they are what they are, but when you're comparing data to pre-COVID levels or COVID levels to where we're at now, it really throws those percentages off a bit, I think.
I mean, it doesn't throw the percentage off of how much the price is up from a year ago.
Well,
I mean, that has no effect. Price is price. I mean, yeah, I think year-to-year comparisons are going to be interesting on all the statistics in housing, particularly it was second quarter where the real low points were from a COVID standpoint.
Yep.
I mean, I guess my biggest concern is with the average existing home price at $350,000 and the average new home price at $430,000, both record highs. At what point does that price start to impact demand and slow sales? That's, I guess, the biggest issue.
Yeah, right, I agree with that. What stuck out to me in the existing home sales were home prices from 100,000 to 250,000 dropped like almost to non-existent, which means there's nothing out there for sale like that. Everything from 750,000 and up was up 170%, right?
Yeah.
That's a huge number to me. I guess it when you think about it, there are no starter homes out there for sale. But what is a starter home now? There aren't any. And what surprised me also in the new home sales, April was revised lower again, right? So April was revised down to 7.8 in new home sales, which was 5.9 originally when it came out. So numbers are kind of all over, but I mean, are we kind of returning to pre-COVID levels from a really high price standpoint, or did we get a real big blow off here? Everybody wanted to go out and buy a house and we're pulling back a little bit, or what's the thought there?
I would think down. I mean, they hit the ground running last year and then all through this year, and they're one of the reasons why the price of lumber went so high, right? They're an insatiable demand for materials so they could get houses completed because people wanted to buy a house, right? So like if you're a major home builder or even a regional home builder in this country, you've seen demand come at you for like a year and a half out. People lined up to buy something from you. And so they responded like most people do when they get, a massive surge in demand with, hey, let's start building like crazy. But there are limitations at how much we can build at any given time in this country. And those have nothing to do with lumber. Could be labor, could be electricians, could be concrete, could be, siding or engineered wood products that we don't really deal in ourselves. We're commodity guys. Those are specialty items.
Yeah.
So there's, I think the realization from the higher up at these big builders is that, maybe we kind of shot ourselves in the foot here by just trying to get so many things in the ground so quickly. And they might actually kind of try to extend their order file and just slow down a little bit here in the second half of the year, which is probably healthy for everybody involved, quite honestly.
Yeah, that makes sense, Matt. That makes sense, Matt. So real quick, since I know we're on a time constraint here, let's jump right over to, so every few weeks, and this is really interesting, Greg puts out a market poll, and it talks about where the current price is at. He puts a little explanation of where do you think it's going to be in the future, right? And here, John Mattingly just put most of our selling due to massive labor issues could be affecting sales. Good point, John. So Greg puts out this post, people vote on it, and I won't pontificate too much, but kind of the old Adam, things always do exactly what most people, the opposite of what most people think they're going to do, sometimes in some way, shape, or form. So this was one of the first polls that Greg put up 3 months ago. Greg, can you see that one and kind of tell us what it was and what you pulled out of that?
Yeah. So, I've had 3 polls in the last, I guess I'd say 4 months. This one we put out in March, when the market had hit what was all-time highs and essentially moved sideways for about 4 weeks, 5 weeks in March. I think the Random Links, the index price printed unchanged for 5 weeks in a row. And about the middle of the month, we put this out to get what people's thoughts were on the market. And as you can see, in retrospect, 52% were basically a high-level trading range, 26% were 20 to 30% higher, and 22% thought it was going to fall, fairly sharply. As we all know, the market basically went up almost 100% from there to all-time highs. Then when we were in mid-May, and go ahead, Nick, you can pull up the next one. Mid-May, we put out a poll and said, "Hey, when is the market going to peak?" I mean, the market was running. I think this was right after the week where maybe
this is your
the market
toilet
had gone up
this is
300 and something dollars. And as you can see, 80% of the market didn't expect it to peak either, from July 1st to the 30th or not for 3 to 6 months. And interestingly enough, the week after this, the market put in a high. So we kind of fast forward to today, and this week we put out a poll. And one of the things about polling that I'm learning is how you ask the question has a big impact in terms of the answer that you get.
For sure.
So I'm trying to fine tune things a little bit. But to that end, if I look, with this poll, which is actually still open, it hasn't come out, but I can tell you that at current time, stand by. Where is that? Hang on.
It also depends whether somebody has 90 days worth of inventory and they're selling on a 30-day cycle, how they want to answer that too, right?
Yeah.
Well, I think that I think that we're all a product of what our position is in the market in terms of we all project what we want it to do as much as what we think it's going to do.
Well, there's no doubt, but that's why these polls are great, because people basically, when they vote, they tell you their position, and that tells you where the market is going to go to a lot of times.
Well, not necessarily. That's not necessarily true. There's a psychological phenomenon in play here too. It's called the law of recency. And it's just the idea that you wake up every morning and you see a blue sky and you think tomorrow you're going to wake up and see a blue sky. So you're kind of surprised when it's hailing and there's thunderstorms that next day because you've just had 7 days in a row of beautiful weather. And the law of recency basically is just whatever's going on in your life today, you expect that to continue on tomorrow. It's a long time studied phenomenon that human beings do. So a lot of this poll question and poll answer is going to be whatever that guy's experiencing the last few days. And if they're not putting a lot of thought into it, and they're just reacting as a human, they'll tell you what they think has been happening already. So
Sure. In which leads you to believe what their action will be, right? And then you look at the supply and the demand in the market, how the market's going to react to their actions, right?
So our job is to try to not be victims of the law of recency and actually step back and take the 500-yard view, the top-down view, and try to look at all the pieces of the puzzle and make some sense of it. Because if we can't do that, we wouldn't be here today after 25, 30 years of trading lumber. So
yeah. So what did that?
React on our emotions from what happened in the last 24 hours. That will end your career in short order over a long period of time. So
just to bring everybody up to date, Matt, and near your app, that's really good. That's really good impact. So what we pulled right now is 44% of people feel that the market's going to bottom between the mid-low 800s and the high 700s. 37% think it's going to be in the mid to low 600s. 11% below 600, 7% not until it gets into the 450s. So I guess in kind of falling back on what Matt was just saying is that obviously that reflects a fairly decent level of bearishness, and I guess if I was going to read that, one of two things is going to happen. Either A, the market's going to turn around before it kind of gets to that level that people think and move higher, or it's going to go below the low. It's going to go lower than the low 600s.
Yeah.
Take your pick.
Right. And you had a good theory we were talking about that maybe what it did was get a bite into the holidays, run up, and then maybe, get everybody confused, get a little bite up and then run. But we're kind of getting long in the tooth for that to happen. Although that could happen the minute we get off this phone call, like it did 3 weeks ago.
Right. Well, I mean, and Matt and Ash, and you and I talked about this one has a price and a time, which is different than if you just say, hey, when's the market going to bottom in terms of a time period without a price, or if you just asked at what price the market was going to bottom out at.
Yeah, no, that's a great point, Greg. And basically what you're saying is nobody picked below 600. Right?
Well, 7%.
7%. Okay, so those are outliers right now. So nobody really thinks that's going to happen. And I mean, obviously,
not in the next 45 days.
Yeah, next 45 days. Okay. That vote, is this still open to vote on right now, or is it's still vote?
Yeah,
okay.
It was a 7-day poll, so it closes on Friday.
So now we just completely skewed the whole poll because everybody's going to go in and vote below 600, not until
No, actually, I think I can close the poll early. Maybe that's what I'll do.
Greg's like, I have the
power. The power of Grador. Somebody just put current transactions. Western Canadian market is around $1,000 Canadian, 2 and better. Well, right now you're in the July delivery cycle, right? So CME is basically benchmarking your 2x4 Western spruce, right?
I'm sorry.
So right, somebody just put up the current transaction of Western Canadian market at 2 and better is 1,000. Right now, when I'm this close to delivery, I just look at the CME for at least the 4-inch portion of that, right?
Yeah. Well, and I mean the index price was 940 last night. So
yeah.
I'm curious, guys. What is the Canadian exchange rate right now? Greg would know.
122.
So that's gone up. Or down, I guess, from depending on what perspective you're looking at it. But that's changed quite a bit in the last year.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Just real quick, let's go through the market here. So what we're noticing on the materials exchange platform is there's a lot more end users that traditionally are buyers selling on here. One of the key things we've been seeing them sell in the last week and a half is OSB. We saw buyers of OSB actually on our platform selling it before mills and their groups or whatever went out and tried to sell it, right? So that big spread we had between the index and the spot market is starting to collapse or starting to come in. On Pacific Northwest, Matt, I know you've been moving this week, but what I've seen showing up out of the Northwest is a lot of 8 cars and trucks of 8-footers. In a lot of things, and that's not, I don't think we're telling anybody new. If people would have been on our call for the last month, we've been talking about this, how the big boxes are pushing back on 8-foot stuff. It shows up in the market. People want to move that. Spruce kind of all over the place, but the spruce market, so to speak, in the last 30 days has really started to accelerate more to the downside in the last week and a half. I don't know whether it's done or not. Who knows? I just talked about OSB. Southern Pine is another one that's just crazy, right? So Southern Pine has an index price they trade at, and all of a sudden people come in $300 under index on stuff. Yesterday, for instance, and a lot of 4-inch and 6-inch was moved last week. Southern Pine, I had a friend of mine that buys a lot of this was telling me that people were offering him 2x12, this in one of the wides, we call it, half of the price of the index, the last print on the index.
Half
So
price?
at half of the price on a 2x12 2 and better volume of Southern Pine, right? Euro, I don't know. I mean, Euro has just hit the docks in some cases, and people are pricing it. So that was my little thing on that. What I don't know about it. What are you guys seeing out there on some different items like that?
I'm curious. Greg knows the Euro I do. You know, most people down in Houston, so I don't have that much to sell either. I just got it in, and they're still dinking around with it, trying to get it, received and all that stuff. But I already had a bunch of orders against that before it arrived. Greg, what are you seeing on the East Coast Euro biz lately?
I mean, I'll say that sales have been sparser so far this week.
Yeah.
I mean, I look at all of these markets are continuing to try and search for trading levels, and we're still in that place where on any given item, anytime during the day, there can be a several $100 spread between the low and the high. Yeah.
You're talking the spread on Euro, what the bid and what the asks are. I've seen Euro all over on the asks in the last. And that's normal in a price discovery market, right? I will say this.
I had a guy call me yesterday looking to buy 15 trucks a Euro. I'll shoot you over to him. I'll give you the information, and he's in your area, so you can deal with him. I don't have to do it to sell him anyways, but he had an idea what he wanted to do. There you go.
We're always interested in ideas.
There you go.
I got a better idea, Matt. How about you put him on the MX platform? Greg can put it on there, and he can hit it on there.
I will tell him to do that. He might be on it already. I don't know. I'll find out.
All right, perfect. That works out great. So Bill G said, do you think with the spread between the front and the back end months and the futures narrowing, give credence consider buying some lumber? I just think it's going from a backwardated market to a potential contango market, right?
Well, that's an interesting observation, because I was having that conversation. If you look at the futures market a week ago, July was $1,000 and September was $850. Today, July's $880 and September is $880. So you think about that. That spread has gone from July being 150 over to even money in like a little over a week. But the reason why it piqued my interest was because I recalled that last September, October, when the market was in its correction mode, I mean, the market fell 50% in 6 weeks, just like it's done right now. And the thing that was the precursor to the market bottoming out was January and March 2021 going from being $150 to $200 under November to them going to be premium. So I would say that if you see between now and early next week, September go to any sizable premium to July, that's telling you that the market's bottomed.
Right.
There you go. That's it.
Yeah.
That's
That's a great question. I was
actually send your if it happens, send your checks right here. Or I take Bitcoin and or Venmo too.
How about Dogecoin?
Yeah, Dogecoin.
Safe moon.
So I think it's a great question from William, because we think in these terms on a regular basis, but not a lot of people spend a lot of time thinking about futures in any real depth unless they're trading all the time. But I noticed that this morning, and the same thing that Greg just talked about. I was like, yeah, that's interesting. Things are starting to, there's some signs out there that this is we've had a fundamental shift. I mean, hey, just from an arm's length view, the price of lumber has decreased by 50%, right? So if I can buy stuff at 50 cents on the dollar, I'm a lot more interested than I was at the old price. Just human nature. I mean, if you go shopping for a car for your wife or something, and all of a sudden some guy shows up on Craigslist half price, you're going to think, oh, this is a scam. But you might check it out.
You might want to bring a friend with. You might want to bring a friend with you to look at that one, though.
Yeah, it might be a reclaimed title, but hey, whatever.
Yeah. So, question then, with that in mind, are you guys buying right now?
I bought some this morning. I
buy lumber every day,
Yeah.
every single day.
Yeah.
I realize that, but are you buying it? I know what you guys can buy, like, but are you buying what you can buy? Is it, you know what the question I'm asking?
Yeah, no, I'm not. I mean, I'm hardly paying attention just because of the move, but I am interested in buying lumber right now as we speak. I'll answer it that way.
All right, I got you.
Actually, I'm going to be on vacation the next 2 weeks, and so
Fair
I
enough.
kind of want to have a low risk profile while I'm on vacation. So, you know, buying a little, but not buying a lot.
You know what the O'Hare trade is, don't you? The
Yeah.
traders on the floor used to do the O'Hare trade. You
Yeah.
just buy a whole bunch of something, and you go to O'Hare Airport and take a plane out of the country. And if you're wrong, you never come back.
Well, I will tell you that I've got a buddy of mine that you know, we talk about. He doesn't know anything about lumber. He doesn't know much about that many things, actually. But
Hopefully, he's not watching.
no, maybe he is. I don't know.
Maybe it's me.
He knows who he is, but
Yeah.
not in the industry. But we talk all the time, and he's got a very scientific view about the market. Is every time I go on vacation, the market goes up.
That's funny.
There you go.
That's cool.
You know,
That's cool. Yeah.
I go to Vegas. I got to tell you, Greg, this is a similar story. My brother-in-law owns a movie theater, right? I mean, he doesn't know anything about
Aren't
lumber.
you there?
Yeah, I'm at a different movie theater, but he actually owns his own movie theater. And anyhow, long story short, we used to go down to Vegas every June, like the first or second week of June. We'd go down to Vegas and play golf with a bunch of guys. And he was the only non-lumber guy that ever went. All the rest of them were people that I've done business with for years and whatnot. And one year we're down there. This is like the 5th year that he got invited to come down. And we're all moaning about how crappy lumber is. And he goes, lumber always stinks in June. You guys, every time we make this trip, you're always complaining about lumber. And I'm like, oh, yeah, you're right. I guess I never really thought of it that way. You know, here I've been doing this for 20 years, and I never really noticed that June's kind of one of those months that a lot of times just stinks. But, you know, July, August, September tend to be better.
They come,
right?
yeah, yeah, usually.
Yeah.
Well, that's so to wrap things up a little here, buyers and sellers mentality. Obviously, we know where the markets move. Buyers, the interesting thing I've seen about this one, I personally wouldn't have thought some buyers would be buying stuff. People have been buying every day, right? Which means business is good. And I go home, I'm like, I don't know if anybody will buy tomorrow because and all of a sudden people come in, I'm like, man, I was surprised that guy bought this and sold today. And it means it's a good fluid market still. It's not like that traditional one where it goes down to $200 below and sits forever, right? It just seems like it's a good, and that's a definition of volatility, but it's moving. So buyers and sellers, what's your mentality? It seems like, and Matt, you mentioned it 3 weeks ago, more outgoing calls from the sellers now. It's not just pick up the phone and sell it at $25 a 1,000. It's pick up the phone, work hard, get some stuff. If you work hard, you can find people to buy it at a price still, right? What's your thought on buyers and sellers mentality going into this July 4th weekend?
Well, I think the sellers are starting to find some orders here. I mean, I'm just noticing on my emails the last 4 or 5 days, like at the end of the day, I'll go back through all the emails I missed throughout the day. And I've just noticed the tone starting to shift a little bit within our company. I can't speak for everybody else, but it was pretty bleak like a week and a half ago. And it's gotten a little bit, I'd say actually significantly better. And we're still not out of the woods yet, but there's definitely some trades going on, and there's some volume out there too. It's not just one car, you know, it's like 10, 20. There's some stuff that's going on right now as we speak, which I think is a positive sign. I kind of expected it. I mean, these guys haven't really bought any real volume of lumber. The market hasn't bought a lot of lumber for over a month. I mean, the last time that anyone really wanted to buy a lot of lumber was kind of like late May, right? I mean, maybe early June, you want to be kind about it, but
I think people did buy a lot of lumber, Matt.
yeah, I think they did too, but I think they've been shipping it. Like if you notice, that's why you're still busy on your little exchange, right? It's going out the door enough.
Yeah.
What if
No,
there's like no orders?
I think let's look at this. I think the cost of inventory at some people are still pretty high by the volumes they have and the way they've been selling, right? Because guys went from 90 days to 30 days. So people are buying now to average prices down too, right?
Okay.
Yeah. Greg, I don't know. I mean, like, yeah, good. What's your thought on that?
Well, I mean, Matt, the last substantial buying was over 30 days ago. The market topped mid-May. There was great liquidity for those, like a week or two after that, and then for the last several weeks, liquidity. While there's buying every day, certainly the level of transactions have fallen. Mill shipping files have collapsed, and buyers in general have more lumber in the yard than they do have on order right now. And so when's the tipping point on that? Is it, tomorrow? Is it a week from, is it next Wednesday? Or is it after the 4th of July holiday? Certainly, I know in the East, we've got summer shutdowns, which, hard to believe that mills would shut down at these prices, but there's a large number of, whether it's unions or they're independent, there's going to be a curtailment of production in late July. And so, does that tip things or not? I'm going to go back to kind of what I've been said for, I don't know, maybe every week since we've been on, is trading is about discipline. It's about having a plan and executing the plan. And yeah, you need to tweak it a little bit based on current circumstances. But, how many days of inventory you need to have, that's your determining factor. And if you stay with your program, you're going to do just fine. Business is good. Business will continue to be good. I think the supply chain on all of these other products is going to catch up and normalize things. So I expect a robust next 60, 90, 120 days worth of end use consumption.
That's a good point, and I think that's a good way to look at it. And you're going to be back in the office working Monday, Matt?
I'm going to try to put in a full day tomorrow, but for sure Friday. I'll be done by Friday.
Well, look at guys.
Well, then that's when the market's going to bottom, as soon as you get strapped in again.
We're coming up against our hard stop, but look at Matt and Greg. I think that I got to tell you, the feedback I get outside of here is amazing on this, right? It's from both of you guys. I don't think there's anywhere anybody can come to on the pure commodity lumber, plywood, and OSB side and hear the information that they get from you guys on this. I really don't. I think I go to YouTube and I look at all these stories about lumber, and it's usually a guy holding a sheet of paper saying, I got an email from somebody that said this, right? It's like, this is the real deal. This is live. And I got to really thank you guys for the knowledge, the input, and the time commitment you've done for this. You're really helping everybody be a little bit better in the industry.
Well, it's not.
Yeah. So you can.
It's fun. Listen, you know what, Matt and I have a great time doing it. We'd be doing this anyhow. Just, I got to look at, as everybody says, it's like, Matt, you have a great face for radio.
And bring Jimi Hendrix again. We love having Jimmy with us too. So look, everybody can come to Materials Exchange. Matt Beamer's at Hampton Lumber, Greg Riley's at Sitka USA. If you need to find them on LinkedIn, they're on LinkedIn. We're at materialsexchange.com or mx.com, mxlumber.com. Come and join Matt Lehman and I tomorrow. We'll really break down the components that go into a house and the pricing in the Southern Yellow Pine market. Until then, we'll see you all next Wednesday at noon. And Greg, you're going to be in, right? next Wednesday? Or next
I'm
Wednesday?
I'm on a plane. I'm on a plane next Wednesday, Ash.
So we're gonna
I'm
have to find somebody to fill in as a guest appearance. So if anybody knows somebody, you can send over your request. Talk to y'all later.
You're gonna do interviews. There you go.
You bet.
Replace me. Love it.
Thanks, guys.
Take care.